All right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first Global One Health Initiative webinar of 2022, supported by the NIH Fogarty International Center. Our topic for today is One Health Ethics, Community Engagement During One Health Research Amidst Conflict, Drought, and Animal Disease. And we will be hearing from two of our postdoctoral fellows working on the One Health Ethics and Regulatory Procedures, or OHEARP project, including Dr. Joseph Nguta from the University of Nairobi and Dr. Kuastros Mekennon from the Ethiopian National Animal Health Diagnostics and Investigation Center, or NAHDIC. The OHEARP project is an NIH-funded supplement of the OHEART project, focusing on conducting research into the ethical and regulatory challenges and opportunities for One Health research in Africa. Our moderator for this session will be the principal investigator for the OHEARP project, Dr. Donald Omothuna of the Ohio State University College of Nursing and Center for Bioethics. Other OHEARP project co-leads include Dr. Andrea Aruda of the Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine and our own Dr. Gednet Yimmer of the Ohio State Global One Health LLC. So to go ahead and start with some brief introductions, Dr. Joseph Nguta is a veterinary surgeon by training and veterinary pharmacologist and toxicologist by specialization. He is currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Public Health, Pharmacology, and Toxicology, and faculty member of the veterinary medicine at the University of Nairobi. He holds a Master's of Science and doctoral degree in Natural Production Pharmacology and Toxicology from the University of Nairobi and received his postdoctoral qualifications from Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research at the University of Ghana. Dr. Nguta is currently the American Society for Microbiology Country Ambassador for Science to Kenya and a member of the Kenya National Academy of Sciences. His special research interests are in natural production pharmacology and toxicology, specifically antimicrobial drug discovery from microbial and floral biodiversity, and One Health and emergency research ethics. So we are excited to have Dr. Joseph Nguta. And then we'll be hearing from Dr. Kuastros Mekennon, who is a veterinarian with a master's degree in epidemiology from Addis Ababa University and a PhD in infectious disease and preventive medicine, specializing in molecular epidemiology of antimicrobial resistance from Seoul National University in South Korea. He currently works at the Ethiopian National Animal Health Diagnostics and Investigation Center, or again, NAHDIC, as a researcher and the AMR focal person, as well as the team leader for the epidemiology unit. He has also served as a chairperson of NAHDIC's Animal Research Scientific and Ethics Review Committee, and currently serves as a member of the Multidisciplinary National Advisory Committee for AMR Prevention and Containment using a One Health approach. Since June of 2020, he has also been serving on the AMR Technical Advisory Group for East African countries to develop an East Africa AMR surveillance roadmap. And our moderator for today is Dr. Donald Omothuna, who is an associate professor in the College of Nursing and faculty in the Center for Bioethics at The Ohio State University. He is also director of the Ohio State University Cochrane affiliate at the Fold Institute for Evidence-Based Practice and was director of Cochrane Ireland from 2014 to 2017. And his research focuses on ethical issues in disaster and humanitarian crises, particularly research ethics in this context, as well as evidence-based practice. And among his many other notable accomplishments, Dr. Omothuna is part of a research team investigating moral distress and injury in the moral distress and moral injury in nurses practicing during COVID-19. And he's contributed to numerous ethics initiatives worldwide, including work with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and UNESCO, and has authored numerous peer-reviewed articles and books. So with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to you, Dr. Nguta, and I will go ahead and try to share your presentation. So one moment while I switch screens. You may begin whenever you're ready. Can everyone see the screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Nguta.
Thank you, Raula, for that kind introduction. And many thanks again for giving us as OHEARP team this opportunity to share our findings with the GOHi family. Our topic for our presentation today is bioethics transcending borders, challenges and opportunities for improved conduct, review and regulation of One Health research in Africa. I am presenting on behalf of the OHEARP team, which is comprised of Donna Matuna from Ohio State University, Andrea Aruda from Ohio State University, Kuastros, Mekennon, my fellow postdoc from NAHDIC, and Getnet Yima from Global One Health Initiative, Eastern African Regional Office in Ethiopia. A second. Next, please, Arola. Now, I first and foremost would like to acknowledge the funding institution for this work, the National Institute of Health Fongate International Center Bioethics Supplement, this award number. I would also like to acknowledge the study participants who sacrifice their time and resources to respond to the OHEARP survey. Next. Now, One Health. Now, this is a multidisciplinary collaborative approach which is aimed at achieving optimal health outcomes while recognizing the interconnection between people, animals, plants, and their shared environment. And this photo captured by our team member Donna easily captures this interconnection between animals, humans, plants, and their shared environment. Next. Now, emerging infectious diseases or EDs account for up to 3/4 of today's, up to 3/4 of today's infectious, emerging infectious illnesses are zoonotic in nature. And that is, these illnesses can jump from animals to humans. And this includes such illnesses as Ebola, rabies, emerging coronavirus infections. Next, Rolla, please. Now, emerging infectious illnesses afflict up to 50 million people, and they account, or they rank position 3 of the top 5 causes of death. Next, Rolla, please. Next. Now, One Health ethics, which is the focus of our presentation today, and little attention, One Health ethics has continued to receive quite little attention from bioethics. Now, for example, the Dutch systems, which are known for their strong bioethics for tracking and responding to emerging infectious diseases, were found to be not quite well equipped to handle moral dilemmas. And their One Health professionals were again found to have little ethical knowledge. Now, bioethics is derived from the word bioethic, which was coined by Fritz J. in 1927 to address the ethical obligations to humans, animals, plants, and the shared environment. Now, additional complexity comes in at such a times when One Health interventions occur or are required at times of emergencies and conflicts. Now, One Health multidisciplinarity is associated with multiple committees and multiple regulatory bodies. And there is usually a lack of familiarity in the One Health concept amongst these different committees. We are talking of human health-based committees, animal health-based committees, and environment-based committees. Next, please. Now, back to One Health Ethics and Regulatory Procedures Survey, or OHEARP survey, as I will continue or call it. Now, the objectives of the survey were first to explore the challenges that are associated with the conduct, review, and regulation of One Health and emergency research in Africa. Another objective of the survey was to provide a description of the opportunities that are available to improve the review of One Health and emergency research in Africa, and third, again, to investigate the feasibility of making potential changes to improve the review of One Health and emergency research in Africa. Next, please. Now, the journey started with the creation of the One Health Ethics and Regulatory Procedures online survey. And this anonymous survey was created using the Kuastros software. Now, this was basically targeting people or scientists who are working within One Health space. Now, the creation of the survey started in September of 2020 and ended in February of 2021. The OHEARP survey underwent a number of rounds of revision before it was shared with the OHEARP partners for additional revisions and further approval. Now, these survey revisions ensure that the questions that were contained in the survey were culturally appropriate and applicable to the study population. We are talking of the study respondents. Next, Rola. Now, before we could begin the administration of this survey, it received ethical approval from a number of institutions, and again, the consent to participate from the study participants. Now, the survey received ethical approval from the Faculty of Vet Medicine, Biosafety, Animal Use, and Ethics Committee, from the University of Nairobi. Again, it also received a license from the National Commission for Science, Technology, and Innovation in Kenya. It also received ethical approval from the National Animal Health Diagnostic and Investigation Center, that's NAHDIC, Animal Research Scientific and Ethics Review Committee, ASAREC ethical clearance from NAHDIC. Again, it also received an exempt, a qualifying exemption from the Institutional Review Board of the Ohio State University. All the participants who accepted to participate in this survey gave written informed consent before their participation in this study. Next. And then the administration of the online survey to the survey respondents. Now, this survey was administered to One Health researchers, Research Ethics Committee, and regulatory body members between the month of March 2021 and July 2021. Now, the participants were recruited through professional networks of OHEARP TIF members and their collaborators. Now, the study respondents were recruited via emails with attached a flyer. Again, a Twitter handle or page was also created, which was dedicated to the OHEARP survey. And again, the flyer was also shared in the link and accounts of all the OHEARP team members. Now, approximately the time to complete the survey was 15 to 30 minutes. Now, data collected were analyzed using descriptive statistics, and the key indicators were expressed as frequencies and percentages. Next, Roller. Now, the composition of the study participants. Now, the study respondents are comprised of one research scientists, the institutional review board members. In other places, they are known as the research ethics committee members, the regulatory body members. Now, as I did say, this study ran, or the administration of this survey ran from March 2021 to June 2021, and a total of 170 respondents participated in the OHEARP survey, out of whom 147 were from 13 African countries. Now, these respondents comprised of 120 researchers, 63 institutional review board members or research ethics committee members, and 61 regulatory body members. Next, please. Now, the challenge is either in timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research, as reported by One Health researchers. And we did pose this question to the One Health researchers. How important are each of these challenges in receiving timely and appropriate review of One Health research? Now, insufficient knowledge of One Health research in the review body or committee, insufficient knowledge of ethical issues specific to One Health research, and again, insufficient protocols for emergency situations were considered to be very important challenges by One Health research scientists that continued to hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health research and emergency research in Africa. Next, Roller. Again, the challenges that continue to hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research as reported by the Research Ethics Committee members. And we did pose again this question to the Research Ethics Committee members. How important are each of these challenges in providing timely and appropriate review of One Health research? Now, again, insufficient knowledge of One Health research and lack of multidisciplinary review boards, in addition to inadequate guidelines, protocols, and standard operating procedures, were reported by Research Ethics Committee members as very important challenges that have continued to hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research in Africa. Next, Roller, please. Now, the challenges which hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research as reported by the regulatory body members. And again, we did pose this question to the regulatory body members. How important are each of these challenges in addressing One Health research by your regulatory body? And a lack of time, a lack of One Health research expertise, a lack of research ethics expertise, inadequate guidelines, resources or standard operating procedures, and lack of legal framework were reported to be very important challenges that have continued to hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research by the regulatory body members in Africa. Next. Again, the challenges during the external review of One Health research projects in Africa. And we did again pose this question to the study respondents on how important are each of these challenges with finding external One Health experts or members with One Health expertise to serve on research ethics committees. Now, lack of financial resources and lack of time were reported to be very important challenges that have continued to hinder the external review of One Health research projects in Africa by all the study respondents. Next, Raula. Now, as I did say at the beginning, the second objective of our study was to provide a description of the opportunities that are available for improved review of One Health and emergency research in Africa. Now, the opportunities for improved review of One Health research by research ethics committee members and regulatory body members were again explored. Now, creation of an NAHDIC review committee for the emergency, and again, creation or use of standard operating procedures for One Health proposals in emergencies, and improved channels for communication during emergencies between researchers, reviewers, and regulatory body members were reported to be very important opportunities by One Health research scientists, research ethics committee members, and regulatory body members for improved review of One Health research in Africa. Next, Arola. Now, again, the opportunities for improved review of One Health research, specifically during emergency situations, such as disasters and pandemics, was also explored. And again, the creation of an interdisciplinary committee, a creation or use of standard operating procedures for One Health research proposals, and improved channels for communication between researchers, reviewers, and regulatory body members were reported by One Health researchers, research ethics committee members, and regulatory body members to be very important opportunities for improved review of One Health research during emergency situations such as disasters and pandemics, as shown by this heat map. Next, roller. Now, the third objective of our study was again to investigate the feasibility of making potential changes to improve review of One Health research in Africa, including during emergency situations such as pandemics and disasters. At the creation of an interdisciplinary committee and creation or use of standard operating procedures for One Health proposals, improved channels for communication between researchers, reviewers, and the regulatory body members were reported to be very feasible avenues by One Health research scientists, research ethics committee members, and the regulatory body members for as quite feasible avenues for making potential changes to improve the review of One Health research in Africa. Next. And again, we also sought to investigate the feasibility of making potential changes in the review of One Health research, especially at times of emergency situations such as disasters and pandemics. Now, and creation or use of standard operating procedures for One Health research proposals at times of emergencies. And again, creation of an ad hoc review committee for emergency situations were reported by One Health research scientists, research ethics committee members, and regulatory body members to be feasible avenues of making potential changes in the review of One Health research at times of emergency, such as disasters and pandemics. Next roller, please. Now, the ethical issues which were encountered during this study, and this is an open question. The extremely important challenges were the lack of research ethics expertise among the study respondents, inadequate guidelines, resources, or standard operating procedures amongst the study respondents, and again, the lack of legal frameworks. These were reported to be extremely important challenges that continue to hinder timely and appropriate review of One Health research in Africa. But then there was another one extremely important opportunity for improved review of One Health research in Africa, and that is the requisition for training of all ethics and regulatory committee members. Now, the very feasible features which were reported by the study respondents for improved review of One Health research in Africa, for making potential changes, for improved review of One Health research in Africa, were the creation of an interdisciplinary committee. This is a committee which includes One Health, animal health experts, human health experts, and experts from environmental sciences. Again, a very feasible avenue for making potential changes for the improved channels for communication between researchers, reviewers, and the regulatory body members. Next, Rolla, please. The opportunities to improve ethics review. And again, this is an open question, and the opportunities which are available for improved review of One Health research in Africa include bioethics training, creation of guidelines, resources or standard operating procedures for review of One Health and emergency research, formulation of legal frameworks to guide review of One Health and emergency research, creation of interdisciplinary committees, and improving the channels for communication between researchers, reviewers, and the regulatory body members. Next, please, Ola. Now, in conclusion, One Health researchers, research ethics committee members, and the regulatory body members in Africa face ethical dilemmas that have continued to either timely and appropriate review of One Health and emergency research projects. Next. Now, this study came up with a number of recommendations. One, training and support is needed for ethical decision-making skills of One Health investigators, reviewers, and regulators in Africa. Two, interdisciplinary ethics review committees are sought, and they were found to be quite feasible. Three, next. There's a need for creation of guidelines and standard operating procedures for One Health research ethics. Four, and again, ethical issues at the intersection of human, animal, and environmental health require further bioethical investigation. Next. Thank you for listening. It's now time to receive questions, and we would love to receive questions or comments from the floor. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your presentation. So we will actually hold all questions for the panel discussion after Dr. Mekennon presents. But thank you so much, and we will definitely address these questions during the panel discussion. So thank you so much, Dr. Nguta. And
excuse me, Laura.
Yes. Oh, you just muted there.
Sorry, yeah, the question should go into the Q&A box, isn't that right?
Yes, so please enter your questions in the Q&A. For now, we will take those that have shown up in the chat, but please do enter them in Q&A. Thank you. And Dr. Mekennon, feel free to share your screen whenever you're ready.
Can you see my slides, please?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pinkley. I appreciate your generous introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. and greetings from Ethiopia. I am Kuastros. I am so delighted to be here and present at the Global One Health Initiative webinar to share a short presentation with you, which is focused on how communities were engaged during One Health research in the middle of crisis, such as droughts, animal disease outbreak, which is a case study in the Somali region of Ethiopia. This will be my presentation outline. There were many collaborators for this work from different organizations, from NAHDIC, from OSU, and also from University of Nairobi. And for this work, we have received funds from different organizations, and we would like to thank them for their generous support. So this will be just some background information. As you know, more than ever now, there is a great need for multidisciplinary One Health research to address today's complex health and environmental challenges. The primary reason for this is the One Health approach to research addresses many questions that are at the intersection of human, animal, and the environmental health. This is by utilizing expert knowledge of researchers from multiple disciplines. So looking at multiple dimensions of the problem at the interface, the One Health approach to research provides an opportunity for better understanding of a range of health impacts and solutions. So this helps researchers to study influencing factors or maybe risk factors that they would not have otherwise be investigated. And this in turn helps to design a more effective and evidence-based interventions. Globally, there are different concurrent crisis situations are happening almost annually in annual basis, and when they happen, the community needs a quick solution. And here is a issue to balance the emergency response versus keeping the integrity of the research at the same time without compromising the ethics component. And again, concurrent crisis may also require researchers extra level of effort to conduct One Health research in such situation, and a need for a deep understanding of the crisis situation. How do the community perceive the situation, and how do they react in such situations? So this needs an effective communication. And again, there are many ethical challenges while engaging with the local community to tackle the investigation, and this can effectively be solved by establishing effective communication at the community level. The pastoral way of life is extensively practiced in Ethiopia, particularly in 3 regions, namely the Somali and Afar region, and also in some parts of the Oromia region. So the livelihood of pastoral communities in Ethiopia, it mainly depends on livestock production. In terms of the population, among the 110 million total population of Ethiopia, pastoral communities comprised of around 12 to 15%, and the area covers around 60 to 65% of the total land mass. And also in terms of economic contribution, pastoralism contributes around 6% of the national GDP of Ethiopia. And as you can see from the numbers here, there is a huge livestock resource there. Somali region is one of the 10 regions in Ethiopia, and the investigation was in Lebanon zone of the Somali region, as you can see from the GIS map. So this area is bordered by 3 countries, namely in the south, Kenya, and in the south and east, some parts, Somalia, and also Ethiopia. So the communities there are heterogeneous in terms of their ethnic composition and also social structure. They freely move from area to area, even they cross national borders. And since they have a very close intimacy with their animals, there is a chance for zoonotic infection in the pastoral communities. So just to describe some research, the research context, so many humanitarian crises affecting this study population. There is a frequent drought due to a shortage of rainfall. Due to conflict, there was a security issue and also travel restriction. Even for us, we were not allowed to travel for whatever purpose before 5 a.m. and also after 7 p.m. There is a refugee crisis in the area from the Somalia, and there is one of the largest refugee camp in the area, as you can see here in the map. In the picture, one of the investigation sites, Pokolmayo Warada, which hosts one of the largest refugee camp in the country and also in the region. Of course, COVID was an issue and poor infrastructure, and there is a frequent animal disease outbreak. So we have explored some research questions in the study, and I categorized them into 2 objectives. The first objective was about ethical dilemmas encountered during animal disease outbreak investigation, and explored ethical challenges faced while engaging with the pastoral community. So for this, we have conducted the field outbreak investigation that took place between March to April 2021. For this purpose, we have collected demographic data such as age and also family size, the number of animals they have, and also epidemiological data, for example, disease history, vaccination history, or treatment history, and so on. And also we have collected biological sample for the purpose of laboratory analysis. We had also a second objective, that is just to conduct an online survey through the One Health Ethics and Regulatory Procedure project that was in detail mentioned earlier by my colleague Joseph. So this is just to substantiate the ideas presented on the challenge during the animal disease outbreak investigation. So the aim was to investigate the challenges associated with conduct, review, and regulation of One Health research in Africa. And also we try to describe the perceived methods for improvement and feasible strategies for approaching ethics review procedures for One Health research, particularly during emergency situation or during a crisis situation. So this survey, as mentioned earlier, it was conducted between March and June 2021. Participants were different participants, One Health researchers, research ethics committee members. We have regulatory body members. So open and closed-ended questions were asked to the respondents. Those questions, they meet the objective of the survey. So there were several key research issues related to the topic of this presentation. The first and the most important was communication complexity, which is from top to down, as you can see in the picture. We have from the region to which goes from the region to the community level. Just to briefly explain this one, as you know, in any Ethiopia is in federal government system. So in federal government system, as because NAHDIC is a federal organization, so we cannot simply go to the community to do whatever investigation that we want to do, but there are so many steps to pass. It starts from the region, goes to the zone level, to the warada level, to the kabale, and to the community level. So all these steps needs a complex communication process, and this is one of the issue. And there is also a continuous movement of pastoralists, so reaching to the community was an issue. There is a culture and intimacy with their livestock. This created a challenge, I would say, for sample, especially for sample collection, because pastoralists, they may perceive science or doing research, it may have impact on their animals. And the other is travel restrictions that I mentioned earlier because of the security issue. And another important point is the lack of specific guidelines that we have also, like standard operating procedures. It's lacking, especially to conduct research in a crisis situation. Particularly, this is really important because the research is done in a uniquely vulnerable society like pastoralists. So we want to conduct the disease investigation through community engagement, participation, but we have faced three challenges. So I can summarize those three challenges into 3 points. The first is there is always a conflicting interest to align the goal. The pastoral committee, they have their own goal. The investigator is their own goal. So just to align those two goals, it's really an issue, and it's a challenge. The other one is level of understanding from the investigator side. So how does the investigator perceive the situation itself, or the concurrent crisis situation itself? And the knowledge of the researcher about the community is also an issue. And lastly, the community wants the community wants early response, but the investigation needs ethical approval. So balancing these two important aspects is really a delicate matter. The other one is convincing the pastoral community about the nature and also the importance of the investigation. Because the nature of the investigation is, it needs, I mean, we were forwarded question to the pastoralists, some sensitive questions. For example, how do they dispose dead animals, or how do they consume animal products, and even the number of animals they have. They don't want to disclose such kind of information. So convincing is really a challenge, and it also requires sample collection, for example, blood collection from the animals. So this is another challenge. And poor infrastructure, as you see from the picture here, road and electricity, like access for electricity was an issue. the road is in a very, very poor condition. And for us, we have collected biological samples. So we want to maintain the cold chain. So electricity was not there. So this is another issue. And the other one is from the researcher side, what is the level of understanding of the researcher, or how the researcher approach One Health research in such concurrent crisis situation. For example, during the investigation time, there were really a very massive animal mortality in the area. So some of the pastoralists that we have contacted, they were really in panic state. So this needs a very special skill to communicate with them. So just to supplement this, or just to explain this in a more elaborated way, in the area or in the pastoral community, there is a way of long-standing tradition of effective communication. They established it for themselves, which is called Dagu. Actually, this Dagu is mainly practiced in the other pastoral region, which is called the Afar region, but in practical, in the Somali region also, they have a similar way of communication. So this was really helpful for us. So what we did was we sat down with the community, with the pastoral committee, through our interpreter. We asked very appealing questions. So this way we have managed to get answers to even sensitive questions that I mentioned it earlier. Although challenging, community engagement was vital for our investigation. And since they were involved in many ways, such as they helped us to identify the crisis event, and also they involve in investigation site selection. They identify where the outbreaks, the disease outbreak is happening, and some information are also we gathered from them. They also assist during sample collection. They handle their animal and their community animals during sample collection. In the second objective, as I mentioned it in the beginning, the second objective of my presentation is just to show the OHEARP survey. This survey typically is supplemented the outbreak investigation. So this survey is now, the analysis is completed and the write-up is almost completed now. Prepared to submit for publication. So just to show you an overview of the survey result related to the survey, is really a lot of questions are investigated, but in my presentation, I wanted only to focus on the emergency part. So there are many challenges for One Health research ethics review process. Some of them are here, for example, lack of time, lack of interdisciplinary committee, lack of standard operating procedures, lack of ethics knowledge, lack of One Health knowledge. So respondents were given a chance to evaluate the challenges on a 5-point Likert scale. So lack of ethics knowledge came out as a major challenge by researchers. And lack of standard operating procedure was a major challenge for regulators and research ethics committee members. And in our analysis, we also found that creation of an ad hoc review committee for particularly for emergency was the most important improvement strategy, which is followed by creation or use of standard operating procedure for One Health proposals in the emergency. In our analysis, interestingly, what we found was respondents perceived particularly incentivizing reviewers as a less important strategy to improve review of One Health research, particularly during emergency situation. So based on that, we can conclude a few points. The first is due to the unique circumstance of emergency situation, conducting One Health research in the context of concurrent crisis is really challenging. And again, the importance of community engagement was evident during our observation in the disease investigation process. And we also showed how local community engagement is really important to achieve the goal of One Health research, particularly in pastoral community. The third one is One Health researchers, reviewers, and regulators in Africa faced so many ethical challenges in One Health research projects, and including in emergency situation. These hinder timely and appropriate implementation, review, and regulation, particularly in emergency situations such as disease outbreak, disasters, and pandemic. So as a recommendation, research in crisis, One Health research in crisis situation, it's not only about challenge, but research in crisis situation may also bring new opportunity. So the mentioned challenges can be taken as an opportunity in various ways. The first one is such kind of situation or crisis situation needs communication from both sides, from the researcher and from the pastoralist side. So this extra communication will help to establish a future sustainable channel of communication for future research in the area. The second point is governing ethical principles for health research in emergency situation and also in non-emergency situation is basically similar. However, crisis situation has its own characteristics. So for this, it needs its own ethical principle or guideline or legal framework. So what we observed was health, it doesn't exist for now. So this is really an eye-opener for policymakers to develop this legal framework or guideline. The third recommendation is there is a need for between researchers, health professionals, NGO, and governments and the community. They need to integrate and collaboratively work, particularly in crisis situations. So this will bring a new paradigm for future collaboration. Thank you for your attention, and your questions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mekennon, for your wonderful presentation. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Donald.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Joseph and Kuastros, for really interesting presentations. So I thought maybe I could start you with a very general question that maybe both of you could answer, and that will give people some time to put questions into the Q&A box. But I just wondered, what have you learned that from this work that has really helped to show you the relevance of ethics for One Health research? Either of you want to go first with that one?
Yeah, thank you, Donna, for that question. Now, focusing on the survey that was given and appreciating the response from One Health research scientists, reviewers, and the regulatory body members, a number of lessons from where I sit, where I land, and again, as an ethics review a committee member, I also appreciate especially the challenges which were reported, the opportunities available, and the feasible avenues for improving the review of One Health research in Africa. The take-off message is the need for a creation of policies which are aimed at regulation of review of One Health research in Africa. And such policies could entail formulation of standard operating procedures for review of One Health research at normal times and again at times of emergencies. Another important takeaway or message is the appreciation of the multidisciplinarity and the collaborative nature of research questions that are responded to by One Health research and the need for creation of multidisciplinary committees, the need for engagement of experts from animal health disciplines, from human health disciplines, and from the environmental health discipline. And again, it also came very strongly. And I'm also appreciating, again, from where I sit as also a One Health research scientist, that there is a need for the training, there's a need for the bioethics training of the One Health research scientists, the research ethics committee members, and the regulatory body members. Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Joseph. Kuastros, have you anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you, Donald. I think Joseph has said a lot. So ethics in One Health research is really a cornerstone. But like after, even though I'm also working in the research review committee, I haven't realized that there are so many challenges of conducting research by following ethical principle. Particularly in my presentation, just engaging the committee is really important, and this helps a researcher to understand more about the investigation process. And the other point is One Health research review can be more guided by guidelines, and guiding principle should be there. For example, just to mention the Ethiopian situation, until recently we haven't had ethical guiding principle nationally for other disciplines except for the public health. So this is really an issue. Most researchers, they want to do publication in international peer-reviewed journal, but due to lack of such guidelines, it was a problem. So I have seen the importance of such kind of important challenges from the OHEARP survey and also from the investigations that we have conducted. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we have a question from Joanne about whether you think the challenges encountered for One Health research ethics review in Africa are different from those encountered in the US or elsewhere. I know we had some responses to our survey from the US, but do you have thoughts on that question?
Thank you, Donna. And again, thank you, Joanne, from that question. The OHEARP survey was really focusing on Africa. And for the collaborators who are working outside Africa, they were still included in the study, but only if they were conducting research in Africa. So really, we were not looking at the challenges that are encountered by one-year research scientists from United States of America. But I think you are asking my thinking. I don't know what's the thinking of my team members, but my thinking is that to some extent, these challenges are the same. As I did say in my introductory remarks, that the Dutch scientists in a recent study were found to be not well equipped to deal with ethical dilemmas. And the scientists themselves were found to have little knowledge on One Health research ethics. And the Dutch scientists are one of scientists with very strong kind of bioethics. I mean, science will really take bioethics or ethics in research quite seriously. So that is what I think. I don't know what is my thinking for, because Joanne is asking our thinking on whether these challenges are the same as the challenges which are being faced by one-year research scientists in United States. Maybe over to the team members. Joanne is asking for our thinking on this. My take, Donna, please.
Okay, well, thanks. Well, maybe we'll take, Joanne has another question that I think, you have direct results related to it, but she asks about our comments on how IRBs and animal ethics committees really wouldn't have the capacity to add One Health projects on top of their other work. So do you believe there's a need for One Health review boards?
Can you come again? Okay, Kuastros, maybe you can.
If I understand the question correctly, like there a need for establishing only a review committee, which is One Health by its nature, right, Donna?
Yes, given the amount of work that human and animal committees already do, they don't have the capacity to take on One Health projects as well. So do we need a whole separate type of committee structure for One Health research?
I think this is probably subjective. Maybe my opinion, Donald's opinion, or Joseph might be different. But in my opinion, nowadays we are more moving in a very multidisciplinary type of research. When we do research, especially in health-related research, it's one way or in another, it involves animals, human, and the environment interaction. So I believe One Health review board is, I think, the general umbrella. Even it can also include the IRB and also the ICOOC, because the One Health review board, they may contain different multidisciplinary committee members. So it can review at the same time from those One Health review members. If the research is only targeted in animal health, they can do those members, they can do, and the other can do for the human health. But most of the research nowadays is targeted in One Health approach. So I think there is a need for One Health review board. So this is my personal opinion.
Can I add on that?
Thank you.
Yes, Joseph, sure.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Joanne, for that interesting question. Maybe if I give you a I share what happens at other University of Nairobi. Mainly, I'm from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, and we have the Biosafety, Animal Care, and Use Committee, where mainly we are looking at the biosafety issues in experimentation. And again, we are looking at the animal health aspect, the ethics, we are using animal in experiments in research. Now, from the College of Health Sciences in the same university, we have the Institutional Review Board. We have actually, it is called Kenyatta National Hospital, University of Nairobi Institutional Review Board. It's an ethics review now, which is mainly addressing ethical considerations in human research. Now, for our students here and for the research which is taking place here, at such a time when we are addressing zoonosis, some of us are looking at some pathogens in animals and also amongst the communities who are keeping these animals. It becomes quite tricky because we can only address the animal ethics aspect, and we always continue to advise the students or the researchers to go ahead to the Kenyatta National Hospital, University of Nairobi Institutional Review Board for ethical approval on the aspects which concern humans. So now, from the OHEARP survey, we are appreciating, and the study respondents are appreciating those challenges. And now we are going ahead to recommend the constitution of committees with multidisciplinarity, with experts. For example, we are recommending not really adding more work to this committee because they are still reviewing this work. We are still reviewing the One Health research project, as Kuastros has said, but can those committees, do they have the necessary expertise to handle One Health research projects? From where I sit, from the University of Nairobi, I can say the committees that we have do not have that expertise. And now we are recommending the formation of inclusion of multidisciplinarity in those committees. Can our committee now, the Animal Ethics Review Committee in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University of Nairobi, have experts from the environmental health sciences? Can it have experts from the human health sciences? Such a committee will be a one-stop shop for review of projects which are addressing zoonosis. And again, we are addressing a timely and appropriate review of One Health research projects. As it is happening now, it is not timely. It takes up to 3 months because we are moving from one committee to the other committee. These committees are not familiar with what is going on. We are taking a proposal addressing veterinary medicine to a human health committee. That non-familiarity is a key cause of delays, which our project is looking into and recommending that multidisciplinarity, the inclusion of One Health of animal health experts, human health experts, and environmental experts in our already existing committees for timely and appropriate review of One Health research projects. Thank you, Ndona.
Thanks, Joseph. And I'd like to ask if Andrea has any comments to add in the area of the comparing the US and some of the results we've found.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Hopefully everybody can hear me well. I just wanted to add a little bit to the question here. So I was trying to think after Kuastros' presentation, I think it's hard that researchers here have to deal with so many different degrees of complexities, like the conflict and the political aspect and all the logistics and everything. I haven't done anything like that, but I was thinking a little bit and reflecting with the COVID, we did have to do some research in animals that required IACUC that were pretty serious and very important ones with being terminal studies. along with people perceptions of the studies that we were doing. So we did have the animal and human component. And I do believe that in that case, a lot of aspects are similar. For example, it would be nice to have just one committee to review our approval, and just get it done. And we needed to submit different ones. And having said that, I do think that we're efficient. We could request a kind of a faster revision of our project, given the timeline of our funding. So that was efficient, which maybe differs a little bit from the processes that we have been hearing about in Africa. But I do think that it could still be a little bit more consolidated, and sometimes we also do like the expertise and we need to reach out and get experts from, like, let's say, other colleges. So I just think there is a lot of similarities, but from my perception here, what I've seen so far with that particular example, we did move quite fast. So maybe the timeline would be a little faster here, but, just limited experience there, but I just wanted to add a few thoughts.
Great, thank you. Well, here's another question, just asking if Joseph or Kuastros or any of the others on the panel could comment on the ethical issues that arise in relation to the natural environment. So going into that other side of One Health beyond animals and humans, what types of issues come up around the ethical approaches to the natural environment and how those would be incorporated into the review considerations?
Can I go first, Donna?
Sure, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. And I'm going to respond to that question again, giving the example of the committee where I sit at, and I call that committee Biosafety, Animal Care and Use Committee. And the biosafety aspect is taking care of the disposition of chemicals, the disposal of used animals to the environment. So technically, respond to that question, yes. For example, in our committee at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, we have the environmental component. We actually call it biosafety, biosecurity. How best can we dispose, for example, pharmaceutical formulations which are being used in experimental animals? How can we dispose those animals safely in such a manner that is not going to affect the environment? So again, in our study, it is a recommendation. It's a recommendation from our study, again, to have multidisciplinary committees, to have committees with experts in animal health, experts in human health, and experts in environmental health. We are coming in as environmental toxicologists here to advise on the best way of disposing the experimental animals, to dispose the pharmaceutical formulations which are being used on daily experiments while using animals. So yes, from the OHEARP survey is a recommendation that in that committee we need experts on environmental issues, again, to take care of the environmental health. So we are not only addressing animal health, human health, but we are also addressing in our study the environmental health and the need for inclusion of environmental experts in the multidisciplinary committees. Thank you, Donna. Donna, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thanks, Joseph. Okay, does anybody have further questions? Does anybody in the panel want to make some comments on anything that we've already discussed?
Thanks, Donald. Thanks very much. Presenters, it was really wonderful. Couple of points that I want to make. Number one, some of the issues that are raised on One Health research ethics are pretty much cross-cutting among different other ethical issues that everybody encounters in the real world. Whenever we do human research, whenever we do animal research separately, some of the issues are really cross-cutting. Some of the issues are also have got something to do with the country where the research is done. When it was presented by our fellows, it was clearly outlined lack of resource, lack of guideline, SOPs are major factors. And we also do recognize the availability of some international guidelines, like WHO has how to do review during emergency, pandemic. Adapting it and then bringing it to the local context is what's expected from different countries to be done, which is the major missing gap. That's something that I want to emphasize. The other major piece that the findings brought up was also engagement of the community from the case study. How much important. We also have another study that engage the environment, by the way, the caged project, where we take sample from human, animal, and also from the environment. Engaging the community at all level is a key for, solution for almost most of the things that we face at the ground level. So want to reflect on those. Back to you, Donna.
Thanks, Getnet. Yeah. Well, I guess we maybe time for another question that was on my mind. But again, Joseph and Kuastros, you've mentioned the need for the importance of additional training in ethics. And I just wonder, have you thought about in particular what sorts of training in ethics or what sorts of topics in ethics do you think would best be incorporated into the training that could be made available, say, to One Health researchers or to the ethics committee review members?
May I come in, Donna?
Yes, Kuastros, yes.
Yes. Actually, one point came up to my mind. It is usually about community engagement, especially maybe researchers, especially in biomedical science students. They, I would say, they lack some knowledge when they conduct research in the society. So some training about how to deal with community, how to interact. For example, if we ask, usually we face challenge, especially when we ask communities sensitive questions. For example, in my experience, for example, how do you use animal products? They don't want to disclose such kind of information. So it's better for a researcher, especially in a diverse community. In most African countries, even within one country, there is a huge diversity. So a researcher should know some, I don't know, it is the right course, for example, sociology course, I don't know, maybe some communication skill is really important. So researchers should get such kind of training to effectively do his or her research. I think this is one thing that came up to my mind. Over to you.
Thanks, Kuastros. Anything to add, Joseph?
Yeah, thank you, Donald. And yes, the cultural and diversity. The cultural diversity of the study participants. And it's also boiling down to engagement, community engagement. I think it's an important training that need to be given to One Health research scientists. So now to appreciate the diversity of the different cultures of different communities from where we continuously go to get samples from. I mean, how to relate with these people. It is a big concern because many research proposals that I have or projects that you have reviewed, I have really not seen researchers addressing how they are going to go around the community, the culture of different communities. Because, for example, I'm going to give an example of a study where you are looking at the pathogens which are causing diarrhea in kids, in babies, and whether they are also in cats, in dogs. So if you get this emaciated kid, are you still going ahead to collect the samples, or are you going first to take the kid to the hospital? And does your project account for that? Even for the transport to the hospital, even if you have that vehicle, as a project allocated funds to take that kid to the hospital. So these are ethical issues which are really not clear at the back of the minds of us as One Health research scientists. And again, to respond to your question on which topics, because I'm now looking at research from planning, conduct, and the reporting of the results. And I think this is all those topics which are going to address the ethical planning of our One Health research project, appropriate topics on appropriate ethical oversight of One Health research projects, and again, topics on ethical reporting of study findings. Those are crucial those are crucial in One Health research. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Joseph and Kuastros. And Joanne has asked one more really interesting question, which we just have a few minutes, but your comments on this would be really appreciated. But she asks, how are the voices of women received in One Health or included in One Health research projects, particularly among pastoralist communities? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I can take this one. I don't know. It's really nice and wonderful question, Joan. Yeah, because you know, for example, as you mentioned it nicely, especially in nomadic, I would say pastoralists. So in pastoralist communities, you know, it's the women's responsibility, particularly to handle small ruminant animals, for example, sheep, goats. For example, in our the outbreak investigation at that time, the outbreak was in sheep and goats. So the main actors here are women. Rather, men are mainly they handle the camels in the area, so they travel from area to area. But small ruminants like sheep and goats are in the compound, and women are the one who are looking after those animals. So it's really important to know the culture. For example, how to communicate or how to engage them in our investigation. So this is particularly if someone doesn't know how the community reacts in a situation, it's really rather than doing the investigation properly, it may create a problem even to the investigator itself. Even in some cases, life-threatening condition, because the women are they may feel they are in some way threatened by the investigator and something like that. So this is really important to include or to engage women in investigation, especially in the pastoral community. I don't know if I answered your question, John.
Well, I think you certainly raised the importance of the issue. Getnet, go ahead.
Just to supplement, when we talk about the voice of women, we have to see it at all level, not only as a study participant level, but investigators level, ethics review committee level, regulatory authority level. So we have the demographic data in terms of distribution of who respond for our online survey, how many of them were women and how many male, which answer part of the question inside this question. But obviously, there is a lot of work to be done. And in fact, this topic by itself could be another major area to investigate and dive into and come up with a recommendation. The voice of women. We try to address it. We haven't addressed it in total. We saw it from one perspective, but we do recognize how important this is. I just want to put that one that is at all level, besides being a study participant, that it needs to be addressed. And this was a deliberate action that we always say gender balance has to be there, in ethics committee, gender balance in a number of issues. So just want to throw that out. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Getnet. My thought was only for in the study subject, and you elaborated in all aspects of the investigation. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Well, we're at the end of our time, and I just wanted to thank you both very much for your presentations and really capturing the essence of our project to date in a very clear and coherent way. So thank you for that. And Laura, and as well, Joanne and all the others who contributed questions, thank you. And Getnet and Andrea for contributing answers. So Laura, I'll leave you to wind it all up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful moderation as well, Dr. Umuthuna. And thank you so much to our speakers, Dr. Nguta and Kuastros Mekennon, and our wonderful audience for the wonderful questions. This has been a great discussion. And we will then go ahead and conclude and look forward to our February 17th webinar, and we'll be posting that on our website shortly. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll also be posting this recording to the website as well. So thank you. Bye, everyone.